I heard screaming. I said to my husband, oh my God, this is different. And I went outside, threw my feet in my muck boots, ran down the steps, and I saw my entire flock flying from way down there toward the peach tree. I saw them flying through the opening where all the way up to the barn. I saw Raina actually fly across the yard. Not run fast, fly. And they were running and screaming, and behind all that sound, I heard a screaming that I don't think I've really heard before. It was absolute abject terror. And I was running, and I ran down here as fast as I could go. I ran right down here because I could hear the screaming. Everybody else seemed like they'd gotten to the pen. And I heard screaming down this hill, down there. And I couldn't see anything. I was running as fast as I could to get in here. I was headed toward the sound. And as soon as I got in this gate, okay, from right there, a hawk flew off that way from the ground and comes running my little buff girl, Dove. She came running. She was all mussed up. I comforted her. I looked her over for puncture wounds, and I don't see any so far, but this is where she was hit. This is where the hawk hit her. You can see her feathers here. And she came running up to me. That is the first time in 20 years a predator has actually gotten hold of one of my birds. I said to my husband, I said, you know what? If I ever lose anything to a predator, it's either going to be Forrest, who's so slow he can't run very fast, or it's going to be one of my girls. It'll never be one of the boys. Yeah, sure enough, one of my very favorite girls of all time it was going to get. But it didn't get a meal this day, at least not from my flock. Boy, Dove dodged a bullet, also known as a hawk. Bless her heart. This is Athena. She's not doing well today. Her comb looked dark. She was off balance. She didn't really want to eat right away. She didn't get off the roost when I was giving everybody their morning scratch. And she's very unsteady on her feet. Her comb was a different color. It was like a dusky looking color this morning, not the bright red it normally is. She is 9 years old, so Miss Athena, the queen of all in this barn, is probably on her way out. And she is 9, so it's a pretty respectable age for a big old hen, isn't it, Athena? Good girl. Hi, folks. I guess you heard about me almost losing my little Dove to a hawk this morning. Well, goodness gracious, this thing just does not want to work right here. I keep changing it and it keeps unchanging itself. I got in, everybody shook up in the barn. Nobody wants to go outside. They're all scared. They heard her screaming, and after that, nobody wanted to leave the barn. But she's okay. I looked her over again, no puncture marks. She's a very lucky hen. And I got in the house and I went and I checked backyardchickens.com, which is I belong to the forum for over 20 years now, and since before I actually had chickens. And so I have known a lot of people on there for a lot of years. A lot of new people, thousands of new people I don't know. But I have a friend on there who's been a friend of mine for about 10 years now, I think. Maybe a little longer. 10, 11 years. And she has a screen name, but her real name is Cheryl. And I had a message, I had a private message. Now, I don't get notifications of anything, seems like. I can't make my notifications work for the forum for some reason. And I had a private message from another friend of mine she lives in Wisconsin, and she is actually one of the moderators now. I used to be one of the moderators. She's a moderator. And I've known her for a lot of years too. And she and Cheryl both are on the same long-running thread. I had a thread on there called The Evolution of Atlas, my rooster Atlas, and I started when he was a baby. And, well, I started when he was a teenager and went back when he was a baby. And that thread has been going for 15 years now, I think, at least. Well, Cheryl was an early subscriber to that thread, and so was Lisa. And I had a message from Lisa this morning. And she said, I was surprised because I thought, oh, I have a private message, and I went and it wasn't from, I thought it was from Cheryl, because we private message all the time. She has breeder quality birds. She lives in Florida, Central Florida, and she knows quality, and she gets from breeders and all that kind of stuff. And she's been just a real good support for me for all these years. You remember I met my dear friend Lady Hawk on that same forum, and you know, we became very close. Even to the point that she visited me several times here, and I visited her when she lived in Kentucky. Well, I thought, oh, Lisa, and I thought, oh, what she emailed me about? It was about, the subject was Cheryl, and I went, uh-oh. And she says, I don't know if you've heard yet, but she said, Cheryl passed away. And I said, oh my God, I hadn't heard. I hadn't heard at all. And I was stunned. But then I saw immediately after that, I had a reply on one of my threads, and I went to that, and it was a message to me from Cheryl's husband, Mark. He said, Cynthia, can you please call me? He said, it's really important. He left his phone number for me. And of course, I called him, and I knew what it was about. And I said, someone just told me, and I'm stunned. Cheryl had been fighting cancer since 2007. 2007. And I don't think I've known a more resilient, tough, persistent, dedicated woman, honest, forthcoming, very straightforward, extremely intelligent, informed, conservative values, but she was just very, very smart. Just smart. I tend to be drawn to very smart women who are very intelligent, usually the ones that become my friends. Lady Hawk was very smart. My friend Rachel, brilliant. And Cheryl was a brilliant woman. And Cheryl and I had been talking back and forth a lot because she'd said that she was trying a new chemo drug, that it was, that the doctor had said, you know, she told me she was terminal. Well, I was talking to her husband, and he said, I've heard a lot about you. And I said, uh-oh, what? And he said, she was always talking about you and your chickens, and, you know, because we just, you know, chicken people we love our chickens, okay? And he said she was always telling me, and he'd say, I'd tell her, I don't care about our chickens. And she'd say, yes, you do. Yes, you do. And so she was very, very knowledgeable about a lot of things, chickens included, especially chickens. And she was just a lovely person. And one day I got a phone call out of the blue, and my husband said, it's a man who wants to talk to you. And I said, a man? Who? He goes, I don't know. Answer the phone. And it's Cheryl. She has had a very, very deep voice, okay? And also she had been a smoker, so she had a very rough, gravelly voice as well. And I said, it's not a man, it's Cheryl. And we had a really nice long talk, and she's talking about how she's doing chemo, and, you know, she knew she was terminal, and I knew she was terminal because she told me. But she'd been terminal for 14 years. I mean, she'd been terminal forever because, you know, she'd had cancer all this time, and she was still fighting. And her husband, he said, oh, she loved her chickens. Now this will crack you up. This is like me, okay? He said she wanted to be cremated, her ashes strewn around her chicken coop. I was like, that sounds just like Cheryl and me. But he said after she passed away, she died, I think, on the 5th. He said, I got into her patient portal, and they told her she was terminal 4 months ago. And I said, you mean she didn't tell you? He said, no, she didn't tell me. I said, I think she mentioned it to me, but, you know, I said, you know, Cheryl, she was a fighter. She was a fighter. And I said, she's just one of the toughest, bravest, most courageous, smartest women I think I've ever known. And it was just a shock. It's not like somebody's going through chemo and all this stuff, and you kind of expect that they're going to pass away, but you think, well, gosh, she's been fighting it all this time. She's tough as nails. She's not gonna die till she's good and ready, right? Well, unfortunately, that's not always the case. But what was interesting is, he said to me, he said, well, if you know anyone else who might be interested in knowing that she's gone, could you let them know? I said, oh, I have, there's a lot of people who stay on the thread that I have a long running thread on Backyard Chickens. And I said, I'll make the announcement. I will. And I thought, wow, that's, of all the people that she wanted him to tell, she probably said, tell Cynthia if something happens to me. And he didn't tell anybody else. He contacted me, and I thought, she was just so special. So it was a really stressful day. Almost losing Dove, and hearing that screaming, that high-pitched, desperate screaming, and seeing how spooked all the birds are, and then after calming down and realizing she's all right, coming back in and finding out that my good friend passed away. That's the thing. When you get to my age, that's something I guess you need to prepare for, is friends dying. It's like it's different if you lose a family member. It's like I've expected my mother to die, I expected my dad to die. My mother was in her 80s and has COPD and, you know, emphysema and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And Alzheimer's. And my father, he was in pretty good health, but he was 94, almost 95 years old. So you expect that, but you don't expect people who are younger than you. And I think Cheryl was basically she's my same age. People that are younger than you are people that you feel like they'll go on forever. And at least in your lifetime, you won't see their end. They'll see yours, but you won't see theirs. That kind of thing. But you need to prepare yourself for that when you get to be my age, just because the 60s tend to be when people start dropping one by one, and it's not, for various reasons, and all the same reasons. Obviously, you know, Lady Hawk had a heart that failed. Her heart was damaged, and she had high stress in her life. It hurt. You know, she was 7 years younger than me. Cheryl's my age. Cheryl had been fighting cancer for all these years, and she was, for a long time, I thought she was beating it. She was very nonchalant. She was like, nah, yeah, they got another drug for me to try. You know, I don't know. So I was kind of blindsided, you know. So it was a bad day for that. Both on the same day. But I do have my little Dove, and Cheryl would be happy to hear that. I was going to come tell her that. But, you know. So anyway, that's all. And hope y'all have a good week. It is fall. Take care, everybody. Bye.